Guten Yardening, everybody! Well, today's video on why we garden is focused primarily around community building. And that means a lot of different things to a lot of different gardeners, in my opinion. But one of the things that we love so much about being gardeners is this sense of community, both locally and really internationally. And of course, part of that comes from what we do here at Guten Yardening on YouTube, but it's much bigger than that, and I think a lot more profound. So let's talk a little bit about what community means to us as gardeners. Well, first of all, the word stem, com, C-O-M, actually means together. And so when we talk about community, we're talking about building something together with other people. You know, for the last couple of years during the pandemic that we've had, it's been a pretty big challenge to do much with other people. I think a lot of the things that we found very commonplace in previous years have now become a little bit trickier in some cases. And so what that means is we need this sense of community even more today, perhaps than we've felt we've needed it in the past. And that's one of the beautiful things about gardening. And so when we talk about community, we can look at our community garden as a great example. This is something that we're a part of, and we've been doing this past season, and now we plan to expand and do even more this season. Well, that community garden is kind of a microcosm, a smaller version of what we're talking about on a bigger scale, because that community garden area brings people from our local community, and of course those local community members are from a vast community, a global community. It brings them all together in one place, working on one end goal, which is to provide the food that they need to their families. And one of the really awesome things about this is they're making, in many cases, they're growing vegetables we've never seen, we've never tried. And so if you walk through that community garden, what you find is this massive variety and a lot of area where you can learn. And that's one of the things that community brings. It brings a lot of intelligence that you don't have already gained in your own experience as a gardener. It brings that from other people. I'll give you a good example of this. We have one community member gardener that we got to know a little bit this past season, and he's been doing some experimentation where he's been growing tomato plants in buckets that are buried in the ground a little bit, and then also side by side with that, he's been growing tomatoes in a traditional way, growing them in ground. And he's had some really good results in the bucket containers. And so this past season, he progressed through that experiment. And at the end of the season, we were able to talk to him about that experience. And he talked about how he got some great early growth and early production from the ones in buckets. They grew a little bit taller, but then the longer production he got from the ones in ground. So he actually did better long term with the ones in ground. Well, that is a fascinating piece of knowledge that's been imparted to us, and it's going to help us guide some of what we do in the future with some of our tomato plants. That's a piece of community. That's a piece of learning that we're able to take from this experience as a gardener. That's that community building that builds on our knowledge base as well. And the other thing that's really nice here about gardening in a YouTube environment, what we're doing here at Guten Yardening is we've been able to build a community of members here that extend not just here in the US, but are definitely extending around the globe. We're getting comments and feedback from people and advice from those of you who have experiences that, again, supersede our experiences, that have grown the things that we're just starting or just learning how to grow. And you're providing us feedback and suggestions and ideas. I can't tell you how immeasurably helpful it is to learn from somebody who's been there and done that before. That is our community. And our community members have been fantastic. We've been able to share some of what we have with that community as a part of that community building. Most recently, we did a seed share with some of our community, and we were able to send out a whole bunch of the seeds from here to other people to encourage that planting and that growth of gardening as far away as California from us, throughout the US. So that's a piece of community building there. And we've also been able to and been fortunate enough to give some of our seed potatoes to a few other community members. We've given sweet potatoes out to community members. And in response to some of the community building we've done, we've also been really fortunate to receive some things back from our community. And we're really grateful for that. For example, one of our community members, and with a plan, was taking a look at some of our purple potatoes that we were growing earlier in the season. And so, we sent her a couple of those to try to grow. And unexpectedly, I assure you, she reached out via email and asked us if there was anything we would like. And she made an offer, of course, we couldn't refuse. She offered to make knit hats for our entire family. And believe me, in Zone 5, Wisconsin, we can definitely use some knit hats. And just a short time later, our entire family is now equipped with these awesome, well, we call them toboggans. I don't know what you call them, but they are fantastic. They are so warm. And I can tell you, our youngest Yardener in training, she doesn't go anywhere without her pink toboggan. And another one of our community members, Geeky Gardens, we were looking at one of his harvest videos and he had these really awesome peach tomatoes. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, those look amazing. What can you tell me about them? And before I knew it, there were peach tomato seeds mailed to us as well for us to attempt to grow something that looks so cool on somebody else's channel. And there are a ton of amazing YouTube community members out there who are sharing the gifts that they have, that sharing what they know how to do, what they know how to make, and that is a big part of community. It's not about getting something from somebody else. It's about sharing what you have that results in an amazing experience. And we're all here for the same purpose anyway. It's to grow food, to try to provide something healthy, nutritional, something amazing to our family. And if we can share the knowledge that we have, if we can build that community, if we can increase the number of people who are also gardening, if we can share that common bond. There is a piece that now unites us all when we talk about gardening. We are all together with a similar purpose. I fail to see how that doesn't make the world a better place. And in that sense, gardening in and of itself is there helping to make the world a better place. And as we're sitting here learning and trying our best to share our experience with you, we're also learning through, of course, things that we research, articles online, etc. But we're also learning from a lot of the other YouTube creators out there, like our friend Dan at Dan Permaculture Food Forest, our great friends up in Canada, Hickory Croft Farm. They have experiences that we don't inherently have here. They have more space in some cases. They have a different growing environment, and they're certainly trying new things. And this is where we start to get inspiration in many ways for what we want to do in the future as well. When you see somebody else having success growing their own meat, for example, well, yeah, that's not strictly gardening, but that's a piece that is engaging. That's a piece that teaches us or shows us what's possible for us. Hence us starting our quail farming, which is now a shift for us toward egg and meat production. When we see people growing vertically or trying and showing these amazing and creative ways of producing food, that inspires us as well. And I could go on and on about this topic. There are a ton of communities out there on Facebook, amazing Facebook gardening communities where rarely do I see a question left unanswered for very long. When we bring together hundreds and thousands of minds in the same general purpose and direction of gardening, it is unbelievable what can come from this learning experience and from just the experience of gardening in general. Well, we want to keep growing our community here at Guten Yardening. That's a big goal because the more people we can reach, the more we can share what we're doing here and try our best to encourage other people to garden. One of the comments on our recent seed share video said this: a lot of people encourage others to garden, but you leave us no choice but to try. Well, that's one of our goals. We want to do everything in our power to encourage you to try out gardening or to increase and to improve what you're doing as gardeners. Listen, if you enjoyed this video today, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.